Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Champ I Am Summit. I want to invite all of you supermen and superwomen who are really committed and dedicated to accessing platinum versions of yourself in this season. I am welcoming you to this transformation chamber. Yes, a transformation chamber that is specifically for individuals like you who have made a decision to live out in their divine capacity, unchecked and unhindered by any force. My name is Schellie Fanfan, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I have been practicing for almost 3 decades now. I am the CEO and owner of Ask Schellie Consulting. I get to work with individuals and helping them to overcome their emotional injury. In that vein, I am a trauma and addiction expert. I am also a thought and behavior transformation expert. I get to work with exclusively dating partnerships and helping them to overcome their intimacy challenges and other relationship injuries. I get to work with corporation leaders as an emotional intelligence expert, providing the secret sauce to peak performance. I get to provide the support of psychoeducation that reveals, that evidences the psychology behind motivational leadership, conflict management, and high collaborative, harmonious team connections. I am the founder of Teach Me How to Heal. It is a movement that teaches a practical message about emotional healing in the form of conferences and retreats. My assignment on today is to talk about your, your emotional health. I can only assume that each and every person within the sound of my voice desires to achieve success. It's important to know that your level of success can never surpass the level of your emotional health. You may get to the place where you always desire to be, but without emotional wellness, you will not be able to maintain that success. And for others, you may find that even getting to that destination is extremely problematic, feeling stagnated, feeling like there's always obstacles in your way. Again, your level of success can never surpass the level of your emotional health. We're talking about your emotional wellness. It is an unspoken advantage. Most of the time, we're talking about the things that we want to achieve, our branding strategy, marketing strategy, what we want to make in 5 years, your vision statement, and that is all wonderful. But in order to get there, we have to really operate in our authority over how we think, feel, and choose. And that is what today's talk and discussion is about. Before I get started, I will be sharing my screen so we can all be on the same page about the content that we're going to be discussing today. But I would like for you to really, really hone in on this. I'm going to ask you to take some notes. I'm going to also ask you to maintain 3 lists. I call it a traffic light assessment. And in this traffic light assessment, you're going to maintain 3 different lists: red lists, yellow lists, and green lists. The red lists are for things that you may hear today during this presentation that you know good and well you are at a complete red light for. Right? You may hear responsibilities, mechanisms, skills, practices that you know I need help. Somebody call roadside service because this car is not moving. You may hear something today that you have recognized as a growth opportunity for yourself, and you know that you are, in all honesty, really putting great effort to overcome that growth opportunity. And for those things, you're going to put it on your yellow list. Again, those things that you are actively working on achieving. And there may be some things today that you hear that you know this is a complete green for me. I am riding lovely in this. I've done the work. I'm consistent. I got my doctoral degree in this thing. I am riding lovely. And you're going to put those things on your green list. And at the end of this presentation, I have a challenge for you. I have specific instructions of what you're going to do with that red, yellow, and green lists. What you're going to do with those red, yellow, and green lists. So make sure you go ahead and get your journal, get your documentation ready, get your pen and paper. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So again, we could all be on the same page about what we're talking about. The mission for the Champ I Am Summit is this: to inspire, empower, and provide the resources to help individuals to break away from overworking, overdoing, and underliving to finally exceed their potential and live their best life. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like victory. Each and every one of us is in a different developmental stage of yet another victory. No weapon formed against us shall be able to prosper. And the things that come to challenge us, they really come to grow us. And the things that were meant to stop us become our footstool. They become things that we can stomp on and grow taller and greater in our calling. We are always in yet another developmental stage of yet another victory. Victory is about truly operating in the dominance that you have over your thoughts, over your emotions, and how you show up. All of us are fully resourced to be victorious in what we were called to do, each and every one of us. Even those skills, abilities, and talents that still have opportunity for growth and refinement and development, that is still within our circle of control to strengthen ourselves in those skill deficits and attain the victory. Some facts. High achievers are at double risk of depression and other mental health issues compared to the average population. High achievers are at double risk. Double risk. High achievers, that's you, sis. That's you, bro. Right? I'm talking about you, sir, you, ma'am. I'm talking about you, king, you, queen. High achievers are at double risk of depression and other mental health issues compared to the average population. Straight A students are 4 times more likely to develop depression than average students. And you may say, well, I'm not necessarily a student. Well, whether you are a student or not, it is important for us to know because we have a responsibility to not only know about us, not only have emotional intelligence about ourselves, but we have to have high levels of emotional intelligence about others, especially the younger generations that we parent, that we mentor, that we sponsor. Occurrences of mental health episodes are grossly underreported, and I'm talking about in Black and Brown communities and other underserved communities, other underreported instances of mental health episodes. Listen, they are astronomical in men. That means that they are not being reported, they are not being identified, or they're just not being responded to. 57.8 million adults in the USA experienced the impact of a diagnosable mental illness in 2021. 57.8 million adults. That's about 1 out of every 5 adults. It doesn't stop there. Of the aforementioned 57.8 million adults, 19.4 million had a co-occurring substance use disorder. Mental illness is among the primary reasons for unemployment in this country. In 2020, during the pandemic, addiction and other mental health challenges increased by 120%. Let me say that again. During the pandemic, there was a 120% increase in addiction and other co occurring mental health challenges. It is now 5 years later. I want you to guess what has happened to that number. Do you think the number has increased? Do you think the number has stayed the same? Do you think the number has decreased? Do you think that we have been able as a country to go back to pre-pandemic baseline numbers? Drum roll, please. No, we have not. Suicide rates continue to skyrocket. Self-injurious behaviors in our youth, identity issues in our youth, and truth be told, even in our adults, continue to skyrocket. Depression and anxiety continue to skyrocket. Divorce continues to skyrocket. Sexless marriages continue to skyrocket. And I can go on and on about the mental health challenges that continue to skyrocket in this country and beyond. And so those mental health challenges are merging into our marriages. Those mental health challenges are merging into how we parent. Those mental health challenges are merging into how we lead. Those mental health challenges are merging into how we run our businesses. Those mental health challenges are merging into ministries and how people lead spiritually. It's merging into how we think. It's merging into our identity as a nation. What does this mean? This means that we have to reference our circle of control. And we may not be able to control other people, but we can control ourselves. There are things within our circle of control that we have to maximize in order to ensure that those numbers do not apply to us. That it doesn't apply to your finances. Those numbers don't apply to your children, your marriages, your household, your business, your destiny. When we are talking about mental health challenges, it's important for us to be clear about how that really negatively impacts our capacity. When we're not able to think straight, when we're not able to operate in discipline, when our moods are all over the place, our thoughts are all over the place, we can't manage our feelings. We count our feelings as facts. Our thoughts are very black and white and polarized. We're not getting the rest that we need. We isolate or really have lost interest in those things that used to be a fire, those things that used to light a fire on the inside of us. I can continue to go on and on those dark thoughts that tend to just creep in, even in situations where we're supposed to feel happy. Have you ever been surrounded by people who supposedly love you and you still feel alone? It's important for us to recognize that our emotional imbalances, our challenges, our mental health challenges, whether it's just a challenge or full-blown diagnosable mental illness, it affects our capacity. And the outcomes for today's discussion: attendees will understand the meaning of emotional health and the impact of intentional healing and stress management. Attendees will learn the impact of stress on physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Attendees will learn the cause of stress and the most effective ways to manage stress on a day-to-day basis. Attendees will understand the importance of self-care and how it is practically applied. And attendees will learn how to maximize emotional well-being, to maximize functionality and overall capacity. It is official. Ladies and gentlemen, it is official. You have the personal responsibility to maximize your emotional wellness. I understand that it may not have been your fault, the things that has caused you emotional challenges. And it is now your problem and your responsibility and your opportunity to overcome. And some things we may not overcome, but we can still achieve despite. It is official. You are fully equipped to do all that you are called to do, and there is nothing that can stop you. That can only be voluntary. When you are stopped on your journey to success and purpose fulfillment, the only person that can stop you is you. We are reminded by the big book, right? We are reminded by the book of wisdom that there is no weapon formed that shall be able to prosper. So it is official. The victory is yours. Let's talk about healing. Let's talk about healing. Oftentimes, when we hear the words mental health, we equate that with mental illness. And so, for some reason, when mental health talks are happening, many people kind of count themselves out, or they start taking notes to give to their neighbor, their spouse, their children, their parents, their siblings. But I really want you to focus on yourself in this conversation. When we are talking about mental health, we are basically talking about the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your emotions, and the quality of your choices, right? That is what we are referring to when we talk about mental health. Now, just to ensure that we understand what quality means, I want you to think about a quality car. Think about a quality car, and I'd like for you to write that down or go into the chat and and type in the chat what your perception, what your opinion is of a quality car. Okay? Got that? Most of the time, when I do this training or other trainings, when I'm talking about quality, one of the first things I'll hear people say is like Rolls Royce, right? So let's assume that that's a pretty good answer. Now, I want you to think about a low quality car. No offense to anybody, but I want you to think about a low quality car. Write those some of the names down on a piece of paper. You can go into the chat, write some low quality cars down. And just to ensure that I am not offending anybody, I'm going to pick a brand that I often hear about that I don't even know if I know what it looks like. And that's the Pinto. The Pinto. I often hear that that's a low quality car. If it's not, my apologies. I'm just repeating what I often hear from the attendees of my training. So think about that. We can clearly understand what a high quality car is versus a low quality car. And some of us have a Rolls Royce calling on our lives, and we're trying to fulfill that calling with Pinto thinking. Mental health is about the quality of your thoughts, which then impacts the quality of your emotions, which then impacts the quality of how you behave, how you choose, how you show up. Our thoughts charge our emotions very much like a phone charger. Our thoughts charge our emotions, and our emotions influence how we choose. Let me say that again. Thoughts charge our emotions, and our emotions influence how we choose. So, when we want to change how we choose, we have to change how we think. If we want to change how we feel, we have to change how we think. Everything goes back to changing how we think. That is why the book of wisdom says to take every thought captive. God knew how he wired us and understood that if we can manage our thinking, not just be in our thoughts. Many of us are in our feelings, but we're not necessarily managing our feelings. We're in our thoughts, we're not necessarily managing our thoughts. You're in your marriage, but you're not necessarily managing your marriage. We have to come out of a place of just being and being dominated by everything instead of our own internal resilience and strength and authority, and manage those thoughts, manage those emotions, manage those choices, manage. And so, when we're talking about really enhancing our mental health, when we're talking about healing, for many of us, it starts in how we think. That black and white thinking has to stop. That victimized thinking has to stop. That small-minded thinking has to stop. Your reliance or your dependence or your habit, the way that you tend to always think about what you are lacking, that's an issue. That's a lack mindset. You're always thinking about what you don't have. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough space. That is an issue, and that must be healed. We have to stop focusing on all the things we do not have and start to maximize and leverage with our low-hanging fruit and every source of social capital that we have. We are fully resourced. It's within our reach. And so sometimes we need some healing in the way that we think, healing in our thoughts will cause us to experience healing in our emotions. And the healing in our emotions will cause us to heal in how we choose and how we decide and how we show up. It is important to know that we can emotionally react to memories that we cannot recall. That's important because sometimes, like, well, I don't even remember what happened to me. That was a long time ago. I barely remember it. That does not mean that you can, it doesn't mean that it excuses you or it gives you a pass or blocks emotional reactions. I'm going to give you an example. I once had a client, and just in essence of time, I'm going to try to make this long story super, super, super short. But at the same time of the year, for about like 7 to 8 years, at the same time of the year, she would have to take a leave of absence from work. She would get hives, break out, shortness of breath, panic attacks, etc. And after many years of getting treatment for the symptomology, finally her doctor says, I think you should see a mental health professional. And she did. And during the time, we were doing some really, really deep therapy, and something happened about 6 months into treatment. She had this very clear memory of being molested by a grandparent about one day before a holiday. And the month of that holiday is when she would feel and experience all of these physical symptoms and physical reactions to a memory that she did not even recall or remember. The body keeps the score, ladies and gentlemen. There's a book that is called The Body Keeps the Score. It is a real thing. And so sometimes we may say, well, I don't even remember that. Some of us will say, well, I'm doing well. I'm successful in my career. I'm flipping houses and buying real estate and cash. I have this beautiful home. I get that. Functional does not mean that you're healed. Let's talk about stress. Stress is a stimulus that places strain on our time and energy, right? That's a pretty simple definition. I can go into psychological jargon, but for the purpose of this discussion, stress is any stimulus that places strain on our time and our energy. And know that those stressors can be positive or negative. Because even positive things sometimes can place strain on our time and energy. Sometimes those stressors are internal or they can be external. External can be situations, finances, people acting a fool, right? Stress at work. It could be internal, your thoughts, your emotions. And so these are just different characteristics of stress. Some physical reactions, elevated blood pressure, heart palpitations, chest pain, nausea, headaches, joint pains, sleep and appetite disturbances. How many of you have experienced any of these symptomology, any of these symptoms over the past week, over the past month, over the past couple of months? I'm talking to you. Some emotional reactions to stress, anxiety, depression, agitation, anger, fear, numbness, overwhelm. There's spiritual reactions too. Questioning purpose. Is it just me? Have you ever looked up or maybe looked down or wherever you look and say, Lord, are you serious? Are you kidding, Lord? Is this what obedience looks like? Is this what being in purpose looks like? Right? Is it just me? Have you ever declared this cannot be it? This cannot be it, Lord. That's questioning purpose, avoidance of those spiritual practices that you may be giving up on because you're feeling so stressed and overwhelmed and lacking faith and lacking optimism, isolation, inconsistency with those spiritual practices that undergird or historically have undergirded you, and you're just kind of like abandoning them because of the overwhelm, lack of conviction for the things that you once said you believed, some other reactions, procrastination, poor performance. These are all different reactions to stress, overperforming. And that is a thing. Sometimes we just got to sit down. You're doing too much. Because a lot of the times when we are doing too much, it's not going to bear fruit. It won't bear fruit because you are overperforming. Overperforming becomes ineffective even when you think it's being effective. Because even though you may feel like you're being effective, it's at what cost? It is at what cost? Substance use, poor concentration, neglect. Guys, listen. Warning. Many of us have defined resilience in a way that doesn't contribute to our healing. We are a resilient people. We push through, we persevere, and yes, I get it, and I celebrate that too. But I also want to warn about when we're using resilience erroneously, because what we're truly describing are gross manifestations of self-neglect. You're going to keep pushing. You're not going to stop and address that headache. You're not going to stop and hydrate. You're not going to stop and eat your meal. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You haven't eaten. How is that resilient when we continue to push through? You have not grieved the loss of your loved one. Someone traumatically died and you continue to push through like it didn't happen. Understand that we can still push through stressors. But it's not going to stop the stress from having its perfect way in your body, in your blood cells, the impact of stress on your hormones. It's not going to stop that cortisol from being formed in your body. Understand, although you can push through, although you're the most creative when under stress, and all the things that we tell ourselves to keep us pushing through the stress, understand that stress will continue to impact. That's why it's called the silent killer. Because a lot of us sometimes don't even realize it. We're so used to it. You're used to waking up in the morning, 5 o'clock, you're in meetings, you're negotiating, you're this, you're that, you're okay, another property, all right, another contract, boom, boom, I'm living my life. And the stress is having its perfect way in your body. You don't even realize it till you pass out, till the chest pains got you in an ambulance, until the doctor's report come. I don't want to prophesy these things over anyone, but I do want to warn that just because you're able to push through, it does not mean that stress is not impacting your body. It is. Yeah, you're pushing through, sis. Congratulations. King, I see you. And while we're pushing through, there is a significant and negative impact to our minds, our bodies, and our souls. 10 common causes of stress: ignoring capacity, right? Not really checking in with ourselves. You know, I know that we could, right? We could. You could do this and that. You could wake up in the morning and you could go across town and come back to downtown and go back to across town. You could do these things that they're asking you to do. You're great at it. So you could speak for free. You could travel and do this work. You could. But we have to be able to ask ourselves, I know that you could, but should you? I know you could, but should you? I often teach my clients, don't should on yourself. Stop shooting on yourself. That's SHOULD. I know my manners. CHAMPIAM Summit attendees. I'm talking about shoulding. SHOULD. I often just counsel my clients, don't should on yourself. Stop shooting on yourself. But in this particular area, when you are checking in with your capacity, it's healthy for you to ask yourself, should I? We know that you could, but should you? Should I? I know I could lend the money, but should I? I know I could take the plane and in the morning and catch a plane right that night and be in and out in just one day. I know I could, but should I? I know I could kill that keynote and do it for free to help out that nonprofit, but should I? Should you? Ask yourself, should I? Poor self-care. Sometimes we'll go clear across town, clear across town to make good on a promise we made to someone else, but not wake up 1 hour early to keep a promise that we made to ourselves, to wake up 1 hour early to pray or to exercise or to whatever. Poor self-care. Care is defined as knowing, understanding, and prioritizing and consistently being responsive to our needs and to do so over time. And sometimes we don't. Key word is over time. And so we may get our hair done or our nails did. Men may have that cigar time with their boys or go golfing. Self-care has to be something that is a part of our lifestyle that happens consistently. And when we have poor self-care, then we tend to experience higher levels of stress. Perfectionism, I know we like to use that as a, well, my biggest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist, right? We say that in interviews or whatever to impress people. No, nothing to be impressed with. Perfectionism is truly a deep-rooted fear of inadequacy. Let me let that sit there. Comparisons is like the terminal illness of your soul, to sit there and compare yourself to others, the go-to syndrome. That's when you are the go-to person for people you can't go to. When you are the go-to person for people you can't go to. Toxic relationships, lack of alignment with our purpose, our skills, abilities, our talents, our goals. Our goals tell us whether you should be saying yes or no. Allow your goals to dictate that. Treadmill movement, you're moving a lot. You all over the place and all these flyers and all these flights, and I see the selfies, but you're really not progressing. You're really not progressing. You're really not advancing. You're really not abounding. That's treadmill movement. Neglecting the hat. HAT is an acronym. It stands for honesty, accuracy, and truth. And that basically means that in order to heal, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be accurate in defining the problems that we have in our lives, and we have to make sure that we are committed to truth, honesty, accuracy, and truth. And so an example of neglecting the hat may be someone who calls themselves a procrastinator, and you're coming to treatment because you want to address that procrastination, and then we realize that it's not procrastination. You are a self-sabotager. There is a part of you that doesn't want you to win. Forget about other people. Forget about the naysayers. It's in you. And so you find yourself, or you may not even be aware that you are self-sabotaging your own progress. The fears that you have can be extremely self-sabotaging. Sometimes we have to call things what they are. And that is why healing can only happen in a hat, honesty, accuracy, and truth. And when we neglect that, it's very, very hard to be responsive to what we need. A problem that is well defined is a problem half solved. A problem well defined is a problem half solved. Normalizing abnormalities is another major cause of stress. What are some of those abnormalities that we tend to normalize as high achievers? Sleep disruptions, not getting 8 hours of uninterrupted rest and being okay with that. I remember I treated this financial advisor and he said, I wake up in the middle of the night and I get this rush of thoughts and I gotta grab my journal and I gotta write it out before I lose it. And that happens multiple times a night, sir. Sir. That's not healthy, sir. There are parts of our brain that are responsible for putting us to sleep and keeping us asleep so that we can truly recalibrate, reboot, and be ready for our calling the next day. And so, if you are not recalibrating or rebooting because you cannot get uninterrupted rest, that is an issue. Why are your thoughts so active when you are supposed to be at rest? Guys, honesty, accuracy, and truth. The accurate diagnosis is this is a sleep disruption because you're not able to manage or calm your thoughts enough to get rest. Relationship toxicity. There's a saying that says when you it's riddled with curse words, but I know my manners, so I'm going to reword it. But if you sit in feces for too long, it just stops smelling. And some of us are in very toxic relationships that we've just gotten used to. You've gotten used to the arguing, the makeup to breakup, the cheating, the way that he speaks to you or she speaks to you, the disrespect, we're sleeping in different rooms, the sexlessness, whatever it is, not recognizing it for what it is. Toxic. Some of us minimize our trauma. There's parenting trauma when we are really, really experiencing catastrophic stressors over or surrounding the parenting of our children. Truth be told, nobody wants to say it, but sometimes it's true. The unique needs of our children may cause us catastrophic stress. Mood dysregulation. You're up, you're down, you're happy, you're not happy, you're indecisive, you're decisive, you don't know what you want. You are waking up angry. You wake up angry. The day ended before it even started. Worry, unhealthy relationship with food, substance use disorders or substance use behaviors, attention deficits. We talked about perfectionism, imposter syndrome, all the self-doubt that comes along with that, procrastination, hesitance. Someone once asked, what's the difference between procrastination and hesitance? Understand that procrastination is more when you are putting off things that you have to do because you are magnifying what it's going to take in your head, right? So you're all of the stress that's going to come along with it, the work that's associated with it's kind of magnified in your head, and you tend to put it off to the very last minute. However, procrastination, there's still an understanding that you're going to do it. Hesitance is like a prolonged state of indecision. You're still praying on it. You're still doing your research. You're still thinking and overthinking about it. And most of the time, with hesitance, we lose out on opportunities because it's taken you so long to make a decision. And we talked about mindsets earlier. And sometimes we just normalize our closed-mindedness. We normalize it where there is room to heal that rigidity, black and white. If it's not done this way, it's wrong. If it doesn't, this is how I see it. And there's no, it's like there's only one option on your multiple choice test, choice A. What about B, C, D, and E, sir? That lack mindset that we talked about, the defeated mindset, pessimists that say they're really realists. No, you're pessimistic, man. You're very negative in your thinking. And it causes everybody around you to be just as miserable as you. And there's healing for that. There's healing for your pessimistic thinking. We just have to stop normalizing these abnormalities and being more responsive to getting the help that we need. Some recommendations for managing stress: putting enough gas in your tank. Sometimes, depending on the different seasons that we are in, we may need different stress management routines or different self-care routines. I used to drive a Honda. When I got a Cadillac Escalade, I was still putting the same $20 I was putting in the Honda to fill the tank into that Cadillac Escalade. And my husband at that time could not stand it. And so if your calling has you is if the size of your calling is like a Cadillac Escalade and your self-care routines equals about $10 worth of gas, know that that Cadillac Escalade is not going to go far. What you did for self-care last year may not be enough for the calling and the demand on your time and energy this year. So let's put enough gas in our tanks. We have to pay our debt. At the end of the week, we should have about 49 hours of sleep. 49 hours of sleep. That's about 7 hours a night. So calculate your sleep debt from last Sunday to last Saturday. Calculate that. If you went to bed late and you missed about 2 hours, add, so that's two on your list. Then about 2 days later, you went to bed late again. You lost out about three. That puts you at 5 hours of debt. Manage your sleep debt and pay it. As soon as you can, sleep in, pay your debt, get therapy, acquire skills and mechanisms for stress management. What is it that you're doing to manage your stress? We have to, if we're going to be talking about stress management, we can't do that without talking about exercise, right? And making sure that you're doing that on a consistent schedule because that is extremely powerful. It is healthy and it helps to release and channel stress. Some other stress management recommendations: delegating, really using support to delegate responsibilities to engaging adult play, those things that you used to love to do as a child, the things that the recreating of you, recreation, recreating you to recalibrate you, recreation, leisure, childhood fun, laughter, staying goal focused. That could be very, very, very like regulating, like looking at your goals, managing your goals. This is how well you're doing. Let me tweak this. I got to revise this. I'm doing awesome in this. It keeps you in vision. It keeps you in vision. Routine check-ins with yourself, like really just checking in. And I have clients sometimes where I literally ask them to program these check-ins in their phones. And so when their alarm goes off, then they literally are expected to check in. What is my dominant emotion that I'm feeling right now? What's my dominant thought right now? And some of those extreme emotions that are really not productive or non-preferred, we got to ask ourselves, what can I do to take this anger that's at a 9? What can I do right now to take it down to a 7 or a 6? That's an example of a check-in. Core elements of healing is taking personal responsibility for your healing. Make sure that you have the support system needed in order for you to walk and work through your healing journey. Self-advocacy is important, being assertive, using your voice, using your power to advocate for your healing and the things that you need. Education is important, becoming an expert in your challenges. That is important. If somebody diagnosed you with depression or somebody said to you, you have this issue, become an expert in whatever that is. I used to be an asthmatic. I was delivered from asthma. And when I had it, I knew everything there needs to that anybody needs to know about asthma. Become an expert so you can advocate for yourself and do what it is you need and be able to communicate to your healthcare providers what it is you need because you've done the work and studied it. And then hope, being optimistic about tomorrow, understanding that the latter rain is greater than the former. That means that your next will always be greater than your now. Staying positive, optimistic, and hopeful. Taking care of yourself should not be seasonal. I'll do it when I retire. I'll do it in the summer. No, it is mandatory. It's a big rock that needs to have place in your calendar. Your bank accounts and your calendar will always expose what it is you worship. Ensure that your self-care gets on that calendar. Some practices that contribute to high levels of self-care: waking up early, sleeping in to pay your sleep debt, taking vacations, getting into therapy, getting into coaching, receiving mentoring or offering mentoring, personal management, that's personal management of your hygiene, personal management of your thoughts, personal management of your emotions, personal management of your spiritual development, personal management of your marriage, managing. Remember, we talked about not just being in it, but managing it. Preventive health care, eating and hydrating healthy, saying no, because when you say no to others, you're saying yes to yourself. Becoming one with nature, when we allow ourselves to have skin to skin contact with nature, that's your feet in the grass, your feet in the sand, rolling in the sand, hugging a tree. It is a very powerful self-care tool, and it is a very effective decompressor. That means that your anger cannot stay at a nine the moment, well, maybe not the moment your feet hit the grass, but with some minutes, right? With some time to allow yourself to truly feel the impact of coming one with nature, it works. Engaging the love you have for healthy activities, healthy support circles, and exposing yourself to new, exposing yourself to new, exposing yourself to new. It's self-care. Learn a new language, learn how to play a new instrument, eat different foods and different tastes. If you're going to go to a park, go to the park or go to a park, clear across town, a park that you never went to. Expose yourself to new experiences because it matters. Continuous learning helps us to be continuous in our emerging. And when we are continuous in our emerging, we give ourselves the opportunity to live in our divine capacity. Find what feels good that is healthy and legal. Find what feels good that is healthy and legal and do that with consistency. Ensure that you have really powerful, healthy routines because millionaires and billionaires are not playing about their routines, and ensure that you commit yourself to change, not just progress. You can celebrate the progress. It's okay to celebrate the progress. What we need is change. Though that is when you are clear about the behaviors that have to stop, start, increase, and decrease. And when you do that and implement that with consistency, that brings you to a state of change. Everything else may just be progress. It's okay to acknowledge the progress. It's okay to celebrate the progress. It's not okay to stop at the progress. We want change. That's being very clear about behaviors that have to start, stop, increase, and decrease. And last, balance. Balance, balance, balance. We are in this place in this space in society where things that are difficult we call impossible, right? We call difficult things impossible, and I reject that. I reject that. There are things that are difficult, balance being one of them, but they are not necessarily impossible. It may look different for everybody, and that's okay, but balance is not necessarily impossible. I'd like to offer this to you. Balance is an acronym, and we're going to close here. And that acronym is B. It stands for Build Your Support. Those things that you're really having a hard time with, cooking hot meals, cleaning, organizing, whatever that is, build supports that can help you with those things. Make sure that you have a very solid support system. And then once you build your support system, remember the next thing, which is A, acknowledge and accept your capacity. I remember when my children were younger, I finally was okay. Well, I wasn't okay with it, but I finally signed up for household help, right? So these were maids that would come in and do laundry and help clean and et cetera, et cetera. And the night before they would come, I would stay up all night cooking, cleaning, folding, ironing. It was like I got the support, but then I wasn't accepting that I just didn't have capacity and had a lot of guilt surrounding that. So acknowledge and accept your capacity. The L is to learn and lean on organizational practice and tools that are effective. The second A is allow recreation and leisure. We need that. The things that you love to do are medicinal. Allow that. The N is for narrow access to you. There are many people that we give access to that did not necessarily earn the access that they are given. So be okay with narrowing access to you. You are going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to prosper. You're going to continue to abound. And not everybody has the right to have access to you. The C is commit yourself to healthy routines, and the E is to establish boundaries. Establish those boundaries, communicate those boundaries to who needs to know them, and then ensure that you are enforcing those boundaries. That's balance. Build your support, acknowledge and accept your capacity, learn and lean on very high and effective organizational skills and tools, allow recreation and leisure, narrow access to you, commit to very healthy routines, and establish boundaries. To all who are within the sound of my voice, please know that the skills, abilities, and talents that have been given to you were given to you in order for you to gift them to the world. The world deserves a very healthy version of you. If we are not taking the time to take care of our emotional health, we are compromising our capacity. For those of you who can truly say to themselves, I am in compromise, come out of that place of compromise and step into a place of liberty, because it's in that liberty and in that freedom, in that liberty and in that freedom, can you truly say, I am a champion. Champ, I am. I am victorious. That's your entitlement. Victory is your entitlement. I'd like for you to look at the things that are on your red list. Circle the top 3 that is the most impactful to your life. And you're going to take those top 3 and you are going to email me at admin@askschellie.com. That's SCHELLIE.com. Admin@askschellie.com. I want to be able to talk through those reds with you so that we can truly assess whether or not you may have to take the next step in getting more help. And guess what? That's a beautiful thing, because we want to make sure that your greatness, that your capacity, that your impact on this side of heaven is unchecked and unhindered by any force. I want to thank each and every one of you for the time that you have given for this discussion. You are encouraged to be responsive and activated to take the steps needed to ensure that you are operating at optimal levels of emotional health, because that's the greatest gift that only you can give yourself. God bless you.